Hello, everyone, and welcome back to RC Hall Art. This is Bobby Hall here with another improvisation. We're looking at 2 minutes for each painting, sped up 4 times. So each one's only going to last about 30 seconds. You can see that I'm using black, red, yellow, and green with a 1-inch brush and a palette knife. That's my only tools, and my fingers, excuse me. I can paint with my fingers too. So these little paintings or improvisations are a lot like the music quests that I used to have. I love to improvise with music and to try to come up with melodies on the spot. I'm not saying I'm good at it, but it is one of my favorite activities as a musician and composer. And these paintings are a lot like the improvisational nature of music. So you just go for it. 2 minutes. What can I come up with? And all of these paintings kind of had some mirrored themes. We saw shadows of red figures or red towers. So these paintings give me the opportunity to loosen up, to be free, and to not worry about the outcome that much. Very important when it comes to composition. I've been an original artist since pretty much the beginning of my music career at 13, 14. They were paying me to play in an original band playing my original music at age 15. So we were pretty advanced when we were kids. And the idea of what it means to be an artist and how to deal with the pressures of that have been a part of my life for going on 30-something odd years here. I'm 48 now, so I guess that's about 33 years. And the ability to just let go, be free from self-judgment, and to be in the zone and create, I think, is the goal of most artists. It's probably the goal of a lot of athletics as well, to get into a flow state and to be in that state of mind where things are just happening and it's sort of magical in some ways. So the nature of these painting improvisations is very much about, trying to achieve the flow state and to allow things to happen. So, I've only been painting, on a regular basis now for about 7 months. I have some other experience with painting, but it's just been sort of off and on over the years, and I have some experience with drawing. I like abstracts. And so, these paintings are an extension of that experience, but now I'm doing it on a regular basis like I used to do with music. Painting has become my exploration artistically instead of music. It's very therapeutic. I get a big boost of self-esteem and sense of accomplishment for creating something every day. And I think there's usually something beautiful in most everything we all create, even if it doesn't achieve the levels of aesthetic value that we want. I think the idea that we're creating something is just very good for the human spirit. Here we are back at the first painting. I'm going back now with my little 1 minute time. I might have got a little bit more than 1 minute in because I sometimes forget to set the timer. So, maybe a little bit more than 1 minute with this, just trying to add something to the painting in this quick time frame. I don't have time to paint over, to change much. I just try to have to accentuate what's there and see if I can bring what's there to a little bit more life. And the idea of figures and shadows is what I really seem to lean into with these. So we can see here that I'm creating these red towers. And I said, well, if the red towers are going to be there, maybe we should create some red shadows. I ended up doing that at some point. Here we have the red shadows, the red towers and shadows, sort of like the green is almost a water reflection of some sort. But it's the reality of these paintings definitely is not important. This is abstract. And the most important thing is that I'm forcing myself to just go and to just do it really quickly. Not think, do. And, try to get into that frame of mind where things are just happening, and maybe I achieved it, maybe I didn't. The more I do this, I think the better I get at it. All right, on with that piece, on to the next one. This tunnel vision piece, I think the outcome of this piece, if you stick till the end, you'll see that this piece finished in a decent place. But I had to kind of paint over to get it to where I wanted to. I also, in this particular clip, I went a little too far with the red ends up becoming the sides of the path, and the path is yellow. And I went a little too far with the red. There was a moment where I think if I had just stopped, it would have been a little bit better than what I ended up with at the end. But I think that's common, especially in painting, to kind of overdo it, and knowing when to stop. Like right there, it's looking pretty good. And then I add this yellow, and I think, man, that's actually pretty good. That's doing okay. All right, that looks good. Wait a minute. Well, I destroyed the depth of the painting. That's all right. Whatever. I think the end result was pretty good. We're going to get to that end result here in a bit. But here I'm just trying to create depth by darkening and creating a sense of dark to light into the tunnel. I end up painting over a lot of stuff with the green, just trying to make things consistent, and the tunnel vision work, for this. That's really just the goal, is to get the tunnel vision to work. All right, so we're back to this sort of landscape thing here. Again, this landscape thing, I think there was a moment where I probably just overworked this piece really and could have stopped. I think it's interesting to observe that as I'm trying to learn how to paint, is like, when do I stop and just take a step back and let the painting breathe? Figure out what actually is going to work well for where this is going, and how can I create something that's going to make it more dynamic instead of just painting more? How can I step back from it? And I'm about to redesign my studio where I can see my paintings from a distance and have all my paints on the sides so that I can easily step back from it. And I think the depth here is working okay. We have a little landscape design, but the back of the landscape is flat with all of those red marks in the back. It just the depth sort of ends with those red marks. The horizon line is the end of the depth. And so the skyline doesn't necessarily, from the horizon line up, doesn't necessarily have the same kind of depth as the actual ground coverage back to the horizon line. And when I do a painting like this, I prefer for it to have depth in both directions instead of being flat at the end. Maybe we're looking over the top of a hill here. Maybe the horizon goes to a hill and ends, and then that's it. You got your trees on the hill, and then it goes downhill on the other side of all those red-looking tall things. And I just kept working and reworking this. I know I spent longer than just a minute with this thing. I think I spent 3 or 4 minutes coming back in. This is sped up 4 times the original amount, so it's flying through. And you can see the depth there. It's working. That works. That particular rendition works. But I came back in, continued to work it, tried to work some of the green back into the red here. Just creating some consistency. Again, I think that works, right? But why not try to add more depth? So continuously pushing paint around, just trying to get it to really see depth. And okay. Coming back in with some yellow, and this Liquitex paint, it dries out so. It's the value changes, I think, by 2 degrees almost every single time. We can see here where the red and grays before were beautiful, but they dried out so dully. And I use Liquitex paint because it's inexpensive and I can paint a lot with it. But like Bob Burridge, I've taken a lesson with Bob, and Bob was very insistent on me getting some good paint. He said I needed to get rid of the Liquitex and just use good paint. But my budget is not going to allow me to paint 50 to 100 paintings every month with really expensive paint. I'm not going to be able to do that. And right now, that's my methodology. I want to do a lot of paintings. I want to spend a lot of time exploring, and so the less expensive paint gives me the freedom to be more liberal with the way that I approach my creative process. And I'm only 7 months in, and I just don't want to be hemmed up by, oh my God, how much am I spending on all of this stuff? I'm spending a fortune every month, and I just want to be free to create. So that's the tunnel vision piece, at different little perspectives, but the tunnel vision really ended up working. It looks pretty cool. Here's the other little small one with our towers and our shadows, giving you some different perspectives. They look pretty good in the pictures. There's some towers again and shadows. And that, when you look at it from a different perspective, it changes, so much from the side view like that. And here's our horizontal, that just ends right there at the horizon line. But anyway, and this one, it just kind of turned into what looks like a little mask of some sort or something. These are all fun to put together. I enjoyed this process. I hope you're enjoying these process videos, and I appreciate you following along. Be sure to like and subscribe, and maybe leave a comment or something to help the algorithm out. Thanks.